Let me tell you something right now. If someone loves you only for what you give them, that's not love. That's a transaction. That's a business deal disguised as affection. And the moment you stop delivering what they came for, they'll be gone. Just like that. Now, I need you to wake up and see this for what it is. Some people will walk into your life not because they love you, but because they love what you bring to them. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's status. Maybe it's the way you make them feel. Maybe it's the way you always answer the phone at 2 a.m. when they need something, but they're nowhere to be found when you need them. And you know what? It feels good at first. It feels like you're needed, like you're valuable. But let me tell you the hard truth. You don't want to be needed. You want to be cherished. You don't want to be a convenience. Because when people love you for what you give, they don't love you. They love the benefits. And the moment those benefits dry up, the love disappears like smoke in the wind. Think about it. How many times have you given and given and given only to feel drained, only to feel like the moment you say no, the love turns cold? That's not real. That's not loyalty. That's not something you build a life on. That's someone using your kindness as currency, and the minute the account is empty, so is their presence. I've seen too many people break themselves trying to keep these kinds of relationships alive. They bend over backward, they sacrifice their peace. They lower their standards just to keep someone happy. Someone who wouldn't lift a finger if the roles were reversed. That's not love, that's manipulation. Now, I need you to understand this deep in your soul. The wrong people will make you feel like love is earned, like you have to perform, like you have to keep proving your worth over and over again. They will make you think that if you stop giving, you'll stop being valuable to them. And in their world, that might be true. But in your world, in the world where real love exists, love is not about what you provide. It's about who you are. So, hear me now. Stop breaking yourself trying to make people love you. Stop measuring your worth by how much you can give. Stop thinking that if you stop providing, you'll be alone forever. Because let me tell you, being alone is better than being surrounded by people who only love you conditionally. I would rather stand alone in my truth than be surrounded by fake love that disappears the moment I stop serving its purpose. And listen, I know it's hard. I know it hurts when you realize that some people only stuck around because of what they were getting out of it. I know it's painful to admit that someone you cared about never actually cared about you in the same way. But would you rather live in truth or keep pretending that something fake is real? Would you rather know who truly stands beside you or keep holding on to illusions? Because let me tell you, when you stop giving, when you finally set boundaries, when you finally say, no, I need something too, when you finally recognize your own worth, the wrong people will fall away fast. They'll disappear like they were never there. And that's a blessing, not a loss. You don't need people who only love you when it's convenient. You don't need people who only love you when you're bending over backward for them. Love that vanishes when you stop giving was never love in the first place. And once you understand that, once you really get that deep in your bones, you will stop chasing people who were never meant to be in your life long term. Because real love, it doesn't come with conditions. Real love says, I see you, I appreciate you, I value you, not because of what you do for me, but because of who you are. That's the love you deserve. That's the love you should wait for. And if it takes time, but stop selling yourself for love that isn't real. Stop giving to people who wouldn't do the same for you. Stop letting people convince you that love is something you earn by breaking yourself into pieces. Because the truth is this, If someone only loves you for what you give, then the moment you stop giving, you'll see their true colors. And I promise you, that revelation will be the most freeing moment of your life. Let me tell you something that most people don't understand. When someone loves you for who you are, not for what you give, that love is different. That love is rare. That love is real. Because it's not about convenience. It's not about conditions. It's not about what you can offer them. It's about you, your soul, your presence, your energy, your essence. See, when someone truly loves you, they don't care if you're rich or broke, if you're on top of the world or fighting your way back up. They don't care if you can't give them anything but you. They love the way you think, the way you move, the way you see the world. They love the way your presence makes them feel at peace, not because you're doing something for them, but because you just exist in their life. You ever met someone who made you feel like you didn't have to prove yourself? Like you didn't have to entertain, impress, or earn their love? That's the difference. That's the kind of love that stays when things get tough. That's the kind of love that doesn't leave when you stop giving, because it was never about what you gave in the first place. It was always about you. Now, I need you to hear this loud and clear. That kind of love is priceless. That kind of love is the foundation of something unshakable. But let me tell you why most people never experience it. Because most people are so busy performing for love that they never stop to ask themselves, do they love me for me, or do they love what I do for them? And the truth is, a lot of people settle. They settle for the love that feels easy, the love that comes as long as they're giving, the love that disappears when the benefits run out. But listen to me. You deserve better. You deserve a love that doesn't disappear the moment you can't provide. You deserve a love that sees you in your lowest moments and still chooses you. You ever notice how some people only show up when things are good? They love you when you're winning, when you're giving, when you're shining. But the moment you struggle, the moment you need something, the moment you stop being useful to them, they're gone. That's because they never loved you. They loved the version of you that benefited them. And that is not love. Real love doesn't ask you to prove anything. Real love doesn't make you feel like you have to earn your place in someone's life. Real love says, I see you, I value you, I choose you just as you are. And let me tell you, when you find that kind of love, you feel it. You don't question it. You don't wonder if you're giving enough. You don't feel drained trying to keep it. Because real love feeds your soul. It doesn't exhaust it. It gives you peace, not anxiety. It gives you strength, not insecurity. So let me ask you, are you surrounding yourself with people who love you, or are you surrounded by people who love what you do for them? Are you being seen for who you are, or are you just being used? Because I promise you, when you start demanding the kind of love that values you, not just what you provide, your entire life will change. And I know some people are scared that if they stop giving, they'll stop being loved. Scared that if they set boundaries, they'll end up alone. But let me tell you something. Being alone is better than being with people who don't truly love you. Because when you let go of the people who were never meant to stay, you make room for the ones who will. So stop trying to earn love. Stop trying to buy it, prove it, fight for it. Love is not something you should work for. Love is something that sees you, accepts you, and embraces you without conditions. And once you understand that, once you demand that, you will never accept anything less again. Let me tell you something that will change your life. Until you love yourself, you will always chase love in places that can't give it to you. You will search for it in people who don't value you. You will beg for it from people who were never meant to stay. You will try to earn it when in reality, love is never something you should have to work for. It's something you should be. See, too many people spend their lives looking for love outside of themselves, thinking that if someone else chooses them, then they must be worthy. Thinking that if someone else validates them, then they must be enough. But that's a lie. That's a trap. Because the moment you put your self-worth in the hands of another person, you give them the power to take it away. And you know what happens when you do that? You start performing. You start shrinking. You start molding yourself into what you think they want you to be just to keep their love, just to keep their approval. And the worst part, even when they give it to you, it never feels like enough. Because deep down, you know it's not real. You know it's conditional. You know it's based on what you do, not who you are. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly loved you? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, I am enough just as I am? When was the last time you stopped seeking validation from people who don't even love themselves? Because that's the real issue right there. A lot of the time, the people you're chasing for love are just as lost as you. You ever notice how the most confident people, the people who know their worth, don't beg for attention? They don't chase. They don't settle. They don't try to convince anyone of their value. You know why? Because they know who they are. They know that their worth isn't based on what someone else thinks. It's based on how they see themselves. And that's the key, right there. Because when you start loving yourself, everything changes. The way you walk into a room changes. The way you carry yourself changes. The way you allow people to treat you changes. You stop tolerating half love. You stop entertaining people who only come around when it's convenient. You stop giving discounts on your worth just to keep people around. Because listen to me, when you love yourself, you don't settle for breadcrumbs. You don't settle for almost love. You don't settle for people who make you feel like you have to earn their presence. No. You stand tall, you know what you bring to the table, and you demand reciprocity. You demand respect. And if they can't give you that, then they don't deserve a seat at your table. But here's the truth. Not everyone is ready for that version of you. Not everyone is going to like the fact that you are no longer needy for their approval. Not everyone is going to clap when you start choosing you. Because when you finally love yourself, you stop playing small. And some people liked it better when you didn't know your worth. So let them go, let them fall away, because the minute you truly love yourself, you start attracting a different kind of energy. You start drawing in people who see your value without you having to prove it. You start building relationships that are built on mutual respect, not just what you can offer. And I know, it's hard. It's hard to unlearn the belief that love is something you have to earn. It's hard to stop chasing validation when you've spent your whole life looking for it. But hear me now. Real love starts with you. And the moment you decide that you are enough, the moment you decide that you don't need to be chosen because you already choose yourself, the whole game changes. So stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're worthy. Stop waiting for someone else to love you so you can finally feel like you deserve it. You deserve it right now. You deserve it today. Not because of what you do, not because of what you give, but because you exist, because you are, because you matter. And when you finally believe that, when you finally embrace that, no one will ever be able to take it away from you again. Let me tell you something right now. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. Some people, they were only meant to be lessons, not lifelong connections. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop holding on to the wrong people, the sooner you free yourself to grow into the person you were meant to be. See, a lot of people struggle with this. They think that just because someone has been in their life for a long time, they're supposed to stay. Just because you grew up together, just because you shared good memories, just because you've been through things, you think that means they have a permanent place in your future. But let me tell you, time doesn't equal loyalty. Time doesn't mean someone is good for you. Time doesn't mean they deserve you. You ever notice how some people only come around when they need something? How some people disappear the moment you start prioritizing yourself? That's because they were never truly there for you. They were there for what you provided. And the minute you stop giving, the minute you stop bending over backward, the minute you start loving yourself enough to set boundaries, they show you their true colors. And I know, it's hard. It's hard to watch people walk away. It's hard to accept that someone you thought would always be there was never meant to stay. It's hard to let go of the version of you that believed in them. But listen to me. When people leave, let them. When people stop calling, stop checking in, stop showing up, don't you dare chase them. Don't you dare shrink yourself to make them comfortable. Don't you dare beg for someone to stay when their part in your story is over. Because the people who are meant to be in your life, you don't have to beg them to stay. You don't have to constantly prove your worth to them. You don't have to fight for a place in their heart. Real ones, they choose you every single day. They support you without conditions. They show up, not just when it's easy, not just when it benefits them, but because they genuinely love and value you. And let me tell you something else. The moment you start loving yourself, the moment you start growing, some people are going to fall away naturally. Not because you did something wrong, but because they were only comfortable with the version of you that needed them. They were comfortable with the version of you that settled, that accepted less, that allowed them to take more than they gave. And now that you're learning your worth, now that you're walking in confidence, now that you're not accepting the bare minimum, they don't know how to handle it. So let them go, let them talk, let them say you've changed, because you have. You are not meant to stay the same. You are not meant to hold on to people who don't clap when you win. You are not meant to hold space for people who get uncomfortable when you start demanding respect. You ever wonder why, when you stop making yourself small, certain people start to distance themselves? It's because they were never rooting for your growth. They were rooting for your dependence. They liked it better when you needed them, when you doubted yourself, when you stayed quiet. But now you know what you bring to the table. Now you love yourself enough to walk away from things that don't serve you. And that makes some people uncomfortable. And here's the truth. Losing people is not a loss when those people were never truly with you in the first place. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Losing people is not a loss when those people were never truly with you in the first place. So stop grieving relationships that ended because you finally chose you. Stop feeling guilty for outgrowing people who refuse to grow with you. Stop thinking that just because someone was part of your past, they deserve a place in your future. They don't. And justice. Rest. The right people, the real ones, they don't get jealous when you grow. They don't disappear when life gets hard. They don't get distant when you start setting boundaries. The real ones clap for you when you win. The real ones push you to be better, not hold you back. The real ones love you for who you are, not for what you give them. So hear me loud and clear. If someone can walk away from you, let them walk. If someone stops showing up, don't chase them. If someone only loved you when it was convenient, they never really loved you at all. Your life is too valuable to waste on people who don't see you, respect you, and love you unconditionally. You don't need a crowd. You don't need fake friends. You don't need half-hearted love. You need real ones. And I promise you this, the moment you start valuing yourself enough to let the wrong people go, the right people will start showing up. Listen to me. If you don't know what you deserve, You will spend your life accepting less. You will settle for almost love. You will tolerate mistreatment. You will excuse disrespect. You will let people stay in your life who have no business being there. And not because you don't deserve better, but because you haven't decided that you do. And that's the key right there. It's not about waiting for someone to treat you right. It's about demanding that they do. It's about choosing not to accept less than what you know in your heart you deserve. Because let me tell you something, people will only treat you at the level that you allow them to. If you let them walk all over you, they will. If you let them take more than they give, they will. If you let them disrespect you and still get access to you, they will. And I need you to understand this. Every time you accept less than what you deserve, you teach people that it's okay to give you less. Every time you ignore a red flag, every time you let something slide that you know hurt you, every time you tolerate half love, you are sending the message that you don't believe you're worth more. And that is a dangerous place to be. Because once you start settling, once you start convincing yourself that this is good enough, it becomes a cycle, a pattern. And before you know it, years go by. Years of accepting love that isn't real. Years of friendships that drain you more than they fulfill you. Years of relationships that make you feel like you have to earn someone's affection instead of simply being worthy of it. But let me ask you, why? Why would you settle for that? Why would you give your time, your energy, your love to people who don't reciprocate it fully? Why would you make yourself small just to keep people around who don't even appreciate you? Let me tell you something. Your love is precious. Your time is valuable. Your energy is a gift. And if someone can't recognize that, they don't deserve access to you. If someone can't meet you with the same effort, the same respect, the same loyalty, then you need to stop giving to people who only know how to take. Because the right people won't make you question your worth. The right people won't have you begging for love. The right people won't make you feel like you have to perform just to keep their attention. The right people will show up. The right people will make you feel seen, valued, and respected. But let me be real with you. Before you can receive that kind of love, you have to believe you deserve it. You have to believe that you are worthy of something real. You have to believe that you don't have to tolerate half love just because you're afraid of being alone. Because let me tell you, being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. Being alone is better than being surrounded by people who don't appreciate you. And I know, it's not easy. It's not easy to walk away from what's familiar. It's not easy to let go of people you once loved. It's not easy to break a pattern of accepting less. But you know what's harder? Waking up one day and realizing you spent your whole life settling. Waking up and realizing you poured into people who never poured back into you. Waking up and realizing you gave your love to people who only gave you pieces of theirs.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You don't want a life of regrets. You don't want a life where you look back and realize you should have walked away sooner. You don't want a life where you sacrificed your peace, your joy, your self-worth, just to keep people who were never meant for you. So here's what you do. You raise the standard. You make the decision that from this moment on, you will no longer settle. You will no longer accept the bare minimum. You will no longer beg for the love and respect that should have been given freely. You will no longer entertain people who only show up when it's convenient for them. Because the moment you do that, the moment you finally understand your worth, everything changes. The way you carry yourself changes. The way people treat you changes. The way you move through this world changes. Because you are no longer seeking validation, you are the validation. You are no longer waiting to be chosen, you choose yourself. You are no longer tolerating anything that doesn't match your value. And yes, that means some people will leave. Yes, that means you might feel alone for a little while. Yes, that means you will have to let go of certain relationships. But listen to me. That's not a loss. That's a gain. Because when you clear out the wrong people, you make space for the right ones. When you stop accepting less, you make room for more. So stop doubting yourself, stop settling, stop thinking that this is as good as it gets, because it's not. You deserve so much more. And the second you start believing that, that's when everything in your life will start to align.